Hello everybody, this is Tyler here once again from the Character Workshop, reviewing a short film that even the princess herself would approve. So, we are finally rounding off the Wallace and Gromit short films. I've covered A Grand Day Out, I've covered The Wrong Trousers, I've covered A Close Shave. Why was my camera blurry for a second there? I don't know. But now we are finally going to cover the fourth, and as of right now, final short film from the Wallace and Gromit series. And that is A Matter of Loaf and Death. So this short film was broadcasted on December 25th, 2008 in the UK on BBC. However, it was released a few weeks early in Australia on December 3rd, so that's kind of interesting. And once again, just like the previous Wallace and Gromit shorts, it was directed by Nick Park. Julian Knott once again returns to do the music. And the writers are exactly the same from The Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave, Nick Park and Bob Baker. And the production company, as usual, is Aardman Animations. And yeah, let's get started with the plot of A Matter of Loaf and Death. So the short film starts off with a simple baker doing his normal task of making bread, pastries, whatever bakers make. And he gets hit in the head with his own rolling pin, and that's where the title card appears. Wallace and Gromit find this out through a newspaper that a baker was found dead, and the baker was actually the 12th baker that was murdered that year. While Gromit was concerned, Wallace didn't really take much notice of it and wanted to focus on his new bakery that he and Gromit are now doing. While Wallace and Gromit are out delivering bread, they find a lady and her dog on a bike about to crash into a zoo, and the brakes on the bike weren't working, so Wallace and Gromit went after the lady and the dog, and they saved her, saved both of them, and they saved them just before they went into a crocodile pit. While inspecting the bike, Gromit realizes that nothing was wrong with the bike and the brakes were perfectly fine. However, Wallace falls in love with the lady from the bike, and her name was revealed to be Paella Bakewell, who is the former pinup girl for the Bake-O-Lite bread company. And he falls in love with her, and they started going on a date, which angers Gromit and annoys him to the point where she started redecorating the whole house to have a woman's touch, as she calls it. Now, I briefly mentioned a little bit that Paella had a pet dog. Afterwards, after Gromit realizes that his room got redecorated by Paella, the dog of hers by the name Fluffles, who's a poodle, returns Gromit's possessions, which got thrown in the trash by Paella. And yeah, from that point on, Gromit and Fluffles kind of have, a pretty, nice relationship with one another, pretty similar to what we've seen so far with Paella and Wallace. After Paella and Fluffles left Wallace and Gromit's house, Wallace finds out that she left her purse behind, and he would have gone after her himself. However, it was raining that night, so he decided to get Gromit to do it instead. And while Gromit was in Paella's mansion, he goes to her bedroom and finds mannequins in there, all numbered up and wearing baker's outfits. Gromit then finds her diary in the bedroom as well, and he takes a look at it. And there are photographs of every single time Paella was with a baker with a red X across their faces. And eventually, Gromit got to the end of the book, which had a picture of her and Wallace on there, as Paella is planning on having Wallace be her 13th victim to complete a baker's dozen. And this also explains, what happened in the intro of the short with the one baker that got murdered by his own rolling pin. So, yeah, it went a complete 180. Paella, who Wallace has a crush on, is revealed to be the villain of the short. The next morning, Gromit returns to the house and tries to tell Wallace about, the evidence of what Paella plans on doing with him. However, Wallace is too distracted, and it was revealed that he and Paella are planning on getting engaged. So Paella then realizes that Gromit has her diary and throws it into the fire, now realizing that Gromit is onto her. Later on, Paella tricks Wallace into thinking that Gromit bit her arm by biting her own arm. Wallace believes in Paella and punishes Gromit by having him clean dishes as a punishment. Gromit then watches helplessly as Paella plans on killing Wallace into the grinder in the factory. However, Wallace is saved from a bag of flour that came out of nowhere and just knocked over Paella. After Paella comes back after being hit by the bag of flour, she goes on an angry outburst about her hatred towards bakers before she leaves, leaving Wallace pretty upset for quite a while. However, the next day she would later return to apologize with a cake. Gromit himself was pretty suspicious about this, and he decides to follow her back to her mansion. However, Paella finds out Gromit was following her and captured Gromit and threw him into a closet alongside Fluffles. Yeah? Oh, you're telling me that's not a closet, that's a storeroom. Oh, darn. I'm filming. I'll talk to you later, okay? Let me know how Richard's doing, okay? Anyways, so, in the storeroom that Gromit and Fluffles got trapped in, they find Paella's old Bakelite hot air balloon and escape the mansion from that way and arrive at Wallace's house. Just as he was about to light the cake, however, Gromit stops him and it was revealed that a bomb was inside the cake. Now Wallace realizes that Paella herself was the murderer of all those bakers. Paella then reveals to Wallace that she hates bakers ever since she ate too much of the Bakelite products, causing her to gain weight and become fat to the point where she can't fit on the hot air balloon anymore, and ended her career as the Bakelite girl. As she was about to kill Wallace, Fluffles surprisingly comes in with a forklift and battles against Paella. I've noticed a trend with some of these Wallace and Gromit short films, and that they tend to have really great climaxes. You know, there was the Wrong Trousers with the train chase scene, there was the close shave with, like, the chase scene with the van, and, of course, the factory itself. And A Matter of Loaf and Death has a pretty good climax as well, you know. Fluffles using the forklift to go against Paella, and, of course, Gromit trying to prevent the bomb from, you know, killing Wallace. It's, yeah. If there's one thing that the franchise does great besides literally everything else, it's that they tend to have great climaxes. Now, unfortunately, the bomb eventually ended up in Wallace's trousers, and Gromit and Fluffles decide to get rid of the explosion, or at least neutralize the explosion, using the dough from the factory. And Paella then gets into her balloon to try and escape, and she wishes vengeance, like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you, Wallace. You will complete my baker's dozen." However, because of her weight and the hot air balloon, eventually led to her literal downfall as she falls into the zoo, into the crocodile enclosure that she ironically was saved from earlier in the short, and she ended up getting eaten by the crocodiles. So, yeah, that was something. Ironically enough, even though she tried to murder him, Wallace briefly mourns the loss of her death, as he was quite a big fan of her and the Bakelite products. And with Fluffles, Gromit invited her for a cup of tea with him and Wallace. However, she decided to leave the house, leaving Gromit pretty heartbroken. And Wallace, you know, in a pretty funny scene, tries to cheer Gromit up, saying, my lad, you know, we've had our hearts broken, both our hearts broken today. Hey, at least the woman that you were in love with wasn't a baker murdering psychopath or something like that." So, yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And so, to take their minds off of, you know, both of their losses, Wallace and Gromit decide to make some more deliveries with their bakery business. However, outside, as soon as they get out of the garage, they find Fluffles out there. Gromit then comforts her and invites her into the van, and she joins for their delivery and sort of becomes a member of their team, even though you don't really see her in any other projects after A Matter of Loaf and Death, which is sort of disappointing, so yeah. So that was what happened in Wallace and Gromit, A Matter of Loaf and Death. And my thoughts on it, just like with the other 3 shorts, I think it's really, really good. I personally don't think it's as great as A Close Shave was. That'll still be my personal favorite. Sorry if that seems to be biased, but I personally still prefer A Close Shave. But A Matter of Loaf and Death was still a really good short. I do like, the fact that, the villain of this short was someone that you pretty much least expect. What's funny enough, it's sort of the reverse of what happened with A Close Shave, A Close Shave, the villain was a dog, and, the good person was, the owner. And this one, it's sort of, the other way around. The owner is the villain, and the dog is on the good side, so I find it to be really interesting, and yeah, like I've said in the other Wallace and Gromit short films, everything else about it is pretty good. Animation, Peter Sallis, fantastic voice actor for Wallace, as always. However, unfortunately, this was his last Wallace and Gromit film as the voice of Wallace, as Peter Sallis would retire the voice in 2010 after the Wallace and Gromit, what was it, Cracking Contraptions TV show? Hold on, let me look this up real quick. World of Invention. That's right, that's the show I was talking about. I'm sorry. I got Cracking Contraptions confused with another Wallace and Gromit television show from 2002. My apologies. Oh wait, hold on, give me this. Give me a moment. Hello? Yes, I know I made another mistake in this episode. Please don't rub it in. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Oh, and let me know how Puppycorn's doing, okay? Alright, goodbye. Moving on, and just like how A Close Shave had another voice actress in there to voice the character from that short. I can't believe I already forgot her name, what the heck. So, in A Matter of Loaf and Death, Paella was voiced by Sally Lindsay, and Fluffles actually, had a voice actress too, by the name of Melissa Collier, if that's how her last name is pronounced. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And Ben Whitehead, while his role was unfortunately uncredited, he was the voice of the baker in the very beginning of the short. Now, Ben Whitehead, if you don't know, after Peter Sallis retired from voicing Wallace in 2010 and eventually passed away in 2017, Ben Whitehead took over as the voice of Wallace in some of the later projects, and if Wallace and Gromit was to get another short film or even a theatrical film or another TV show, Ben Whitehead would take over as the voice of Wallace. So yeah, kind of interesting that, that he was in this short, as a voice actor long before he eventually became the new face of Wallace. Now, some of you will probably be thinking, oh, just like with The Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave, you don't have anything interesting to talk about in terms of production, right? Well, you're wrong. For some funny reason, I was able to find information on the production of this short, just like I did with The Grand Day Out. So, this short was first announced in October 2007, and production first started in January 2008, which, between then and the release date, which was in December 2008, that was like an 11-month time period, which Nick Park, the creator of Wallace and Gromit, said that it was significantly quicker than the feature-length films that he worked on for Aardman, for like Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which each took 5 years to complete. So, yeah, quite a pretty short time period for stop-motion shorts. Also, another thing I found out, apparently this short costed only £100,000, which was way cheaper compared to, The Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave budget, and yeah, it is a little bit more expensive than the Grand Day Out's budget, which was like only £11,000, but yeah, that was surprisingly cheap, and they sort of paid off, literally. Yeah, great short. Also, in interviews, Nick Park said that working on A Matter of Loaf and Death was a lot better in his opinion than working on The Curse of the Were-Rabbits, as the BBC, who was the distributor and the channel that aired A Matter of Loaf and Death, hardly, gave them any suggestions on what to do with the short, so they were sort of mostly, did this, on their own terms. However, in the case of A Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which was, made alongside, or at least it was distributed by DreamWorks Animation, they kept, giving Nick Park calls to, make critical changes to the movie, which sort of made Nick Park pretty upset that he had to make a feature-length film that appealed to an American child, so... Yeah, this was sort of a breath of fresh air compared to, the movie. And like I've said with the other 3 short films, Julia Knott once again does the music for A Matter of Loaf and Death, and... Are you ready to hear what I think about it? It's as good as always. Nothing too special about it. It's, Julia Knott, you once again hit it out of the ballpark, so... Yeah, nothing much else I gotta say about A Matter of Loaf and Death. Definitely give it a watch. But yeah, that concludes the Wallace and Gromit short film saga. Will there be any more of these in the future? I personally hope so, because I love Wallace and Gromit. And... yeah, now some of you are probably asking if I'm going to review The Curse of the Were-Rabbit at one point, and, I am planning on doing a review of that. However, I'm waiting until, around Halloween to probably review it. And it's a feature-length movie, too, unlike, the short films I talked about. So that's going to take quite a long period of time to, talk about an entire movie. I may have to split it into, multiple parts. Heck, I'll probably even make that the A Came From England movie. I'm just kidding on that last part. But, yeah, that's about it for this review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and all the other previous Wallace and Gromit short film reviews as well. And if you did, feel free to give it a like, hit subscribe if you want to see more AK from England episodes and just mediocre plush content in general. Feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. That's about it. This is Tyler from the Character Workshop, signing out. Next time, I'm finally doing a commentary video. Yeah, that's right, I said it. I'm doing a commentary video. Okay, goodbye.